it's only going to the challenge. Even our YouTube, I've made it unlisted because I don't want it out there. This is for you. You signed up. You get this. But when our son was threatening us with knives, I didn't talk about that a lot. I will talk about that in a one-on-one setting or in a seminar setting where it's not going to go out to the people who I don't know. And because that's vulnerable for him, and that's vulnerable for me, and that puts him in a very strange place. And so there is wisdom in how much to share. And that's why we made it a priority right from the beginning. We said, you are in control of how much you share. You don't have to share the things that you aren't comfortable with. But that being said, it's still vulnerable. I love what you said here, Melissa, that it's hard to find the words. It took an hour for a post just to do a paragraph. Isn't that the truth? Like, but you know what's beautiful about this? This comes down to one of the things that I deeply believe in, and it's rooted in two different things. One is science, one is faith. The science part of what you did yesterday is called interpersonal neurobiology. It's this idea that we rewire one another's brains. When we listen to you, when we hold space for you, when we are your tribe, we come alongside of you, that anxious wiring that might be in your brain. So your experiences, words that have been spoken over you, hardships, these things cause your brain to create neural wirings in certain ways. It could be anxiety, it could be fear. If you're living in the back of your brain past your amygdala, which is back here, all that means is that you're living in a constant state of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen today? Like all the time. You're always on alert. Sally calls this living in full court. Maybe she'll explain that. I don't know. But
I'm good at it.
You're good. Okay. So I won't say any more about that. But here's the thing. When someone listens to you, empathizes with you, doesn't try to fix you, and doesn't judge you, those wires that have come together, they separate and they form new wirings of bravery, courage, compassion. So the person that you want to be is highly dependent on your tribe. Now that is positive and hopeful for some and very depressing for others, because how many of you know that finding a good tribe is near impossible? Who do I trust today? Who's going to walk with me? Who's not going to judge me? Who's going to hold my heart when it's breaking? Who is going to not judge me when I have failed ridiculously? Like, this is what our world needs. And so you did that yesterday. So all of that to say, as you shared, you are offering an opportunity for something new to be written on you, something new to be written on your family. And that's powerful. And that also stems from a piece of faith that I've held in my heart for many years. There's a verse that says, confess your struggles to one another and you will be healed. That's powerful. It's powerful. I mean, can't I just go into the little confession booth in my little Catholic church and like do my little Hail Mary and confess my sins and out I go and I'm good? No, it says this is a together thing. Belonging creates resilience. And so this is why we're doing a challenge. This is why we're coming together. This is why I have called you to lean in, to not be a spectator. And if you need to be a spectator for this, by all means, show up however you need to show up. But if you're wanting to know why, if you're like, why is she giving away prizes if I post on a wall? And if you're like my son, you might put your foot further in the ground and say, well, no, I'm not doing that. I just thought it would be fun. Okay. That's my only reason for the prizes. But leaning in, posting on the wall, supporting other people. You know what that tells us? It tells us that you are ready to be brave, because there's a big difference between being brave or thinking about being brave and actually being brave. And one of the secrets to being brave, at least I found in my life, is I don't show up here in front of you because I'm brave. I don't show up on the Facebook group because I'm brave. No, I'm brave because I have been showing up to hard things for the long term. That's what creates bravery. And that's what I read yesterday. Every single person. I am so moved. I could cry, but I won't, because I don't like that. I might. But I was so moved because I wanted you to realize that just by showing up to your life every day, waking up this morning, that's brave. choosing to face some of these hard things. That's brave. And bravery isn't a feeling. Bravery is something that happens to you when you continue to show up and you refuse to say, I can't, but you say, this is hard, but I can do hard things. And so I am so excited for today, because today I've got my friend Sally here. Sally is one of our coaches. Sally is a Spitfire. I feel like I should warn everybody. I feel in a good way, because Sally fights for the right things. When I first met Sally, my friend just mentioned to me, you've got to meet my mom's friend. And she lives in Edmonton. So next time you're in Edmonton, please, like, you know, you got to meet her. And I met her and I'm like, holy, this woman is fire. And she's fire for justice. Sally was a foster child growing up. She has fostered. And let me tell you, you know, if you get a chance to come in a little bit more to our inner circle with the Brave Parent Institute, how many of you are in the Brave Parent Institute and you have felt Sally's fire at some point? You're like, yes, Tina, she has a no BS attitude. She calls things for like it is, and she is love and fire. Yes. So that's what I love about you, Sally. You're not just fire. You're not just like, you know, burn all the wrong people in the world, but you're also so full of love. You have come through quite a journey. You have such a story. And Sally is our connection coach. She is the one who teaches us how to lean in. She also is an amazing homeschool mama, and she has lots of wisdom to share. She could literally take the entire week.
I might, no, I'm kidding.
But I've asked Sally to come in today just to talk a little bit about the things that are on her heart for you, being brave. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Sally.
Okay, wow, thanks. Now what do I say? So I'm going to talk about showing up when it's hard. I think it's Brené Brown that said, embrace the suck. Because honestly, showing up when it's hard is sucky. And I want to tell you my reasons and why I have a no BS attitude and why I just don't want to wrap everything up in a pretty little bow, because quite frankly, it's pretty hard to wrap up a pile of crap in a pretty bow. So I do the hard things and I show up when it's hard. I need you guys to know that I am 56 years old and currently I am crawling and creeping on a floor, working up to 300 meters a day. Why? Because I want buns of steel. Well, that's a dream, but at 56, that ship has sailed. But what I'm saying is because it rewires the brain, and I'm doing this for my girls. So I've got 3 kids. I've got a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 9-year-old little girl that we fostered, and she has a lot of diagnoses that I don't really get into because I'm not big on labels, but she's got FASD, and she's got sensory processing, and she's got all the things. And the reason why I show up when it's hard is because I am her. And I didn't know I was her until I got her. And I didn't know how much my life sucked. I mean, I knew my life sucked, but it was really, really hard when I was a kid, because I was a kid from hard places. I have FASD. I met my birth mother when I was 35, and I can remember, 32. And I remember thinking, I can't believe she didn't drink. Oh, it turns out she did. And I had a shit childhood, not because my parents were horrible, because they weren't. They were amazing human beings. But 50 years ago, who knew about FASD? Who knew about full court? Who knew about all of the things, right? And so I struggled, and I was the kid from hard places. I was the kid that no one liked. I was the kid that no one wanted around. I'm pretty sure that my parents wouldn't get invites to stuff because, oh God, they'd have to bring her. And school, let me tell you, school was bad. I'm in therapy, no shit, for school, because school was that hard for me. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving to go to therapy right after I'm done here. No joke. So school was hard. Teachers didn't get me. And it wasn't their fault, but they didn't get me. Parents didn't get me. There was so much noise and sensory overload and things and people and chaos and distractions. And I couldn't handle any of it. I had no social game. That was brutal. And all I looked like was this little jerk, this horrible child that was constantly flipping out or crying or talking too much. Yeah, I got my mouth taped shut a lot, which is a really effective tool for parenting or teaching. Not so much. And the reason why I show up when it's hard is because I never, ever want Serenity to feel like me. I was the little girl who was dying inside. I was just trying to cope and nobody got me. And I was loathed. I knew that my parents' friends hated me. I knew that teachers hated me. I knew they did. I'm not stupid. You know, when you are a kid in full court, and Connie mentioned that, full court means that we are always putting off the stress hormone. When you've had trauma, you are always putting off the stress hormone cortisol. And they call that in the biz, I don't know what the biz is, but that's what they call it, is full court. So you're always in fight or flight. I was just sitting on the edge waiting to snap. And I never disappointed, just so you know. They expected that from me and I didn't disappoint. I knew people didn't like me. And I know people don't like me now. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I am a no BS kind of person. And I'm all about embracing the suck, because we just have to do it. We just have to do it, because you know what our kids need us to do? They need us to lean in. They need us to lean in with love. You know, I wanted to see Serenity beyond the behaviors, and I want you guys to see your kids beyond the behaviors, beyond the screaming, beyond the tantrums, beyond the swearing. I hear a lot that parents are getting swore at, I don't know, grammar, whatever. What I want you to see is a child that is desperately struggling and they're dying inside. And if we don't lean in with love, and if we don't really see them, it's not going to end well. And remember something, behavior is always communication. It's shitty communication. Sorry, I have a potty mouth. Connie should have warned you. I'll try and temper that. But it is communication. And trust me, it sucks. It sucks. There's days when you just go, oh, Lord, I want to throttle this child. I want to bury in the back garden and not have remorse for a good 2-3 hours. I get it. I get it. But you know what? If we can lean in, we all have those days. And you know what? You're going to screw up. You're going to screw up. Just know that. You're going to screw up. I screw up lots. Hard to imagine, isn't it? Because I'm a parent coach. But I do. But we don't always respond perfectly every time. We don't. But you know what? If we can lean in and remember and give ourselves grace, I always tell people, get your grace in place. Because you know what? If we don't give ourselves grace, how the hell is anybody else going to give us some grace? Get your grace in place and realize that you are human. I've been up all night with a migraine for the last 2 nights. So I'm telling you right now, I have to really work at being kind to myself and going, you know what? We all screw up. It's all good, right? But it does happen. And be kind to ourselves. You know, a lot of the moms have posted, you know, I'm not brave. I don't want to be brave. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? You just told me your deal. Trust me, that's brave. Brave is not a label. It's not a shield. It's not what it is, it's taking action every single freaking day, showing up when it's hard, even when it sucks. Okay. So I want to challenge you guys. I want to challenge you, because I try to do this. Now, again, not perfect. I'm listening to audiobooks right now and podcasts all the time. Right now, Gabby Bernstein's my girl. And I'm telling you, I want you to stop. Every time your kid flips out or acts like Satan, let's be honest, it feels like that someday. Something I have to remember is that I'm also in full court. I also am right there to flip my lid. And so if your kid's flipping out and then you flip out, then everybody's triggered. And it's like taking a small little fire and throwing gasoline on it. Wow, we have now a massive explosion. Nothing good comes from that. So before you ever respond to your kid, before you even try to be the mom that goes in there and goes, honey, tell me how you're feeling. Before you become that, stop. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths. 3 cleansing, not hyperventilating breaths. I'm talking 3 deep breaths. And I want you to do that because here's the thing. Sadly, a little bit of science here. Our thinking brain is 3 seconds slower than our emotional brain. So we need it to catch up. And if you take 3 deep breaths and you don't respond and you don't act, what happens is your kid's also taken 3 deep breaths and everybody's thinking brain has an opportunity to catch up. And so once you've taken your 3 deep breaths, what I want you to do is I want you to really think, like talk to your kid, not go, well, how was your day? Listen, you seem like you're upset. What's going on for you? Because they don't freaking know, just so you know. Because I don't. That's a throat punch question. Like, trust me, my husband's a saint. But the reality is I want you to take those 3 deep breaths. I want you to think about it. And I want you to get in touch with your body. What's going on in your body? And ask your kid, where are you feeling this? Like, I feel like you're you're struggling right now. Like, where are you feeling it? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest? Like, where is it where is it? I want you to get them, again, we're getting them to get their thinking brain engaged. Okay? Where are you feeling it? I want them to focus on their physical body. I want you to focus on your physical body. And so you know what I'm doing here? We're not just regulating your kid, we're regulating ourselves. That's super important, because if we're not regulated, ain't nobody regulated, okay? The big thing that you have to understand is that kids just want to be understood and heard. And if they haven't experienced that from you, this doesn't happen instantly. Oh, it's all peace, grooviness, and harmony, and suddenly my mom gets me. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. So they have, and you know what? Honestly, if we've been the mom that freaks out, we have no credibility. So we've got to model this. So we've got to model this. So we have to, in order to stay calm, we have to get in our thinking brain. And we want our kids. My friend Rochelle, who I think is on this call, has taught me all about this whole emotional intelligence thing. And the thing about emotional intelligence is anger always leads. Anger always seems to run the freaking show, right? Am I right? So whether you're sad, whether you're lonely, whether you're hungry, whether you're thirsty, whether you're or sometimes you're pissed off, but anger always leads the show. So, but that's not really what you're feeling. Maybe your kid's just sad. And there's Rochelle. Maybe you're just sad. Maybe you're just lonely. Maybe you had a really crappy day. Maybe your teacher was just really having a crappy day and she didn't respond really, really well. And so the kid doesn't know that, right? So when we do this, when we model this for them, and we stop and we breathe and we get in our thinking brain and we feel it in our bodies, what happens is we're modeling this, and then they start gaining emotional intelligence. And if they can figure out where it's in their bodies, then they can go, you know, Mom, I'm just really mad. My teacher just really got mad at me. She didn't listen to me, and she didn't let me have a chance to talk, or whatever. I'm not trying to kill the teachers here. Yes, I'm a homeschooling mom I'm the teacher, so I'm probably the one screwing up. But what I want for the kid is to be able to have emotional intelligence. I want them to, and when they have emotional intelligence, and when they see that you're listening and that you're not flipping out, and when you're not flipping out, then they can go, okay, she's hearing me. She's listening. I can listen. And the other thing what this does is it also helps us. This is a big piece of it. Now, you ready for this? I'm going to bring it all home here, and you're all going to go, oh, crap. Is the best part of this is that when we do this, we need to also look in and go, okay, what about this is triggering for me? Why do I want to throttle this kid right now? Because we got to look at what our triggers are, because often, and I know this, oh Lord have mercy, I know this with Serenity, is that she just feeds off of me. What is my trigger? What's triggered? What is triggering about this for me? Why am I being triggered by this little human who shouldn't be triggering me? And when we can figure that out, what happens is we have to look at what hurt child in me still needs to be seen. So when we look at that, what happens is then we can better identify with the hurt child that's in front of us, because we're all just hurt kids, really. Let's be honest. And when we can lean into that, we can lean into our kids. To see what I did there? I brought it all home. I know I brought it all back to us. Dang it! It's all about us, but it is. How am I contributing to the dysregulation? If your kid's freaking out and swearing like a trucker, if they're swearing like a trucker, do not throw gas on that one. Just take 3 deep breaths. Model it, man. How am I contributing to the dysregulation? And here's the big piece of this. When everybody does this, when everybody models this, when we get to this place where we see how am I contributing to this, guess what happens? Everybody heals. Everybody. Not just our kids. It makes me cry because it's not just our kids. We're all hurting, okay? Everybody feels heard. Everybody has a voice, and everybody heals. You guys are killing this. I love it. Keep leaning in. That's all I got to say.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Sally, I'm crying. What hurt child in me still needs to be seen. Everybody heals when we do this. Is anyone else, like, I know Callie was like, this is gold. Anyone, are you feeling this with me, with what Sally just said? You know, and shivering. You've got somebody shivering, Sally. And I think it's because it gets back. Do you see what Sally has done here? And do you see why after I had that coffee with her, I'm like, hello world, you need Sally. We need Sally, because she carries a piece of the puzzle. Every coach that we have on our team carries a very special piece, and this is Sally's piece, and this is why she's so good, because she's lived this, she is living this. And can you not feel the love and the grace? I love, what was the grace statement? The grace statement.
Get your grace in place. Get your grace in place.
Get your grace in place. Yes. And you know, I love this because it takes it beyond scrolling through Instagram. If you would have seen beautiful little, you know, quote pictures on Instagram, get your grace in place, like, right? We're all just that hurting child, like. But here's what we want to do. We want to turn that into actual action. And a lot of times what we are looking for is we're looking for, could somebody just fix my kid? Could somebody just get the anxiety out of them? Could somebody please cure my kid's depression? Could you give me the right pill? Could you give me the right psychologist? And I'm not against those things, but what Sally is saying here is she's saying that really all our kids need when they're feeling anxious, when they're in the back of their brain, when you're in the back of your brain, just need to be understood. Like, that's it. That is it. You know, yesterday we had a very triggering conversation in our house. I live with boys. I have 2 boys and a husband, and I've only got 1 female dog. You know, like I'm outnumbered. And my oldest son, who has been sinking in depression, says to me, "Mom, you took away my knife. I want my knife back. Like that knife that you take on in the woods. Like they're kind of woodsy guys. Like they like that stuff." And I had a trigger. And something that I don't share very often is that for the last 5 years, since my son's threatening us with knives and suicidal attempts, I have hidden our knives in our home for 5 years. When we go on holidays, and if we're at an Airbnb, I hide the knives. It's my trigger. What Sally was talking about there's a trigger there. And last night, my son says to me, who has been depressed, I'll get in that in a moment, but yes, all knives are hidden as well. Absolutely. Here's the thing, he's asking me for the very thing that triggers me. And I broke into tears, and I said, you have to understand that this is a big trigger for me, because it takes me back to those years of where I was worried for your life, and I was worried for my life, and I was worried for my family. It takes me right back. Like I could still smell the smells. And he said, Mom, we're not in that place anymore. I just want to go out and do stuff in the woods, in the trees with my knife. He goes, I promise you, I would never hurt you, Mom. I would never hurt you. And I'm battling with this. And we sat down as a whole family, except with our little guy. So my husband, my oldest son, me, we sat down, and I had to really get really clear about where I was coming from. Because to him, what he's hearing as a 14-year-old boy is he's hearing that my mom doesn't trust me. That's what he's hearing. And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that I'm triggered. I literally have trauma over this. And he was finally able to say to me, he said, Mom, like, I need you to understand that if you don't give me my knife, I'm going to go buy myself one, because I'm going to prove you wrong. And I thought, we have a problem here. Here we have the conflicting of wills. Here we have somebody who's wanting to be understood, and me with my trauma, and we're missing it. Now for you, I want you to put yourself in that same place. You have your child needing to be understood. They're feeling anxious. They don't want to go to school. They whatever they're dealing with, their attitude. And you have you with your inner child, your triggers. And this is happening. How do you come to this again? Well, you lean in. You lean into the hard stuff. And We had a very, very hard conversation, and I was finally able to nail down my trigger. I said, anger scares me. Anger scares me. I'm afraid. What am I really afraid of? And this is where we have to be people who know, like that emotional intelligence, like Rochelle talks about. She's working on this, and we might bring her into the team here. But here's the thing: like we have to have that kind of inner work in order to parent. You think you need the next parenting book on how to get your child free from anxiety in 3 easy steps? Guys, if that was working, it would have worked already. We have more access to more books, more podcasts, more free things on YouTube than ever. And we have the biggest problem of mental health ever. If information was enough, it would be okay. We would be doing great. We would actually be excelling. The problem is, the real issue is what Sally talked about. It's this idea of leaning in, showing up when it's hard, having hard conversations, and having the hard conversations here first, putting my own oxygen mask on. What am I really afraid of here? Am I afraid of my son? Do I really think he would hurt us? No, I don't. Now, some of you, I have to say this because this is very sensitive. Bringing up knives is very sensitive. There are those of you who may be watching, and you would never want to give your child access to something like that. And I want to put that out there. You need to listen to what my story here with a real grain of salt. Your safety is your ultimate goal, and never, ever give something, even if it's just like a little knife, like I'm giving my son to go out into a tree and do a little carving. Like, please don't hear what I'm not saying. There's wisdom. But what I brought that up for is it's a trigger. It's a trigger for me. It brought back memories. And so we gave him back his knife last night after he understood, oh, Mom, you're afraid of when I've lost it. You're afraid of anger. Okay, we can do something with that. And we leaned in. We had a hard conversation. We put some real parameters around the usage and when he could have it. And we didn't have a blow up. See, a lot of kids like my son, maybe you have children like my son. If you just say no, and you don't do that inner work, and you don't explain and talk about, listen, like this is my inner wound here, then you're going to have an oppositional child blow up, put their foot more in the ground, stand more firm, and stand against you. I said to my son, I said, I know that you would never hurt me. And for you to think that I don't trust you will put a wedge between our relationship. And at this point in my life, your relationship to me is more important than me being right or me putting my foot down. But you have to understand, we have to understand one another. And so I'm hoping that while I'm talking, I'm hoping that you're putting yourself in this story. And you're not listening about, I can't believe she brought up knives. Get over the knife, friends. Get over that, because I have boys. Like I said, if I had girls, I think I would do better. I don't understand, guys. I'm just putting that out there right now. Here's the thing, friends. We have to know our own triggers. And so that's a little bit of what we would like you to do today with what Sally has given us. What are your triggers? What is the trauma? And you might, when you think trauma, you might think, well, I haven't been abused. I haven't had anything major happen to me. And some of you have. Some of you have. So it's easy to go there. But for others, you might be like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't really have a whole lot. I've had a pretty good life. I'm just having a hard time with my kid. Here's the thing. Trauma doesn't have to be large. Trauma can be not feeling understood yourself for years. Labels that have been put on you, experiences that have crushed your soul and silenced your voice. Those are little traumas, not being understood. I love that, Rochelle, that one of your goals is to relentlessly pursue your triggers. Yes. And to do the work. And one of the things that I have a real hard time with in the mental health world, which is where I work, is that we focus so much on these triggers and we tell people to be introspective, but we don't bring them out. And I want to tell you, I want to be here to encourage your heart to know that just because you have a trigger doesn't mean that you're going to be defined by that for the rest of your life. In fact, if anything, we need to be modeling for our kids is that yes, you can lean into what has hurt, the heart wounds. You can lean into the hard stuff and you can find healing. You can find wholeness. Those things don't have to define you, but you do have to face them. See, there's collectives of thoughts out there that are like, just get over it and just, you know what, you're fine, you're healed, you're great, just keep going. And then there's collectives of thoughts on the other side of the pendulum that say, no, like just wallow, wallow there. You are there for the rest of your life. This trauma has defined you. I want to remind you that you are not your pain. You are not your pain. Your pain and the bad things and the experiences of your life have actually shaped you in some ways great and in other ways not, but you are not your pain. I want you to think of yourself back before the pain. Who were you? Who was I before the trauma of wondering if my son would hurt himself or kill himself or hurt me? Who was I before that? I was brave. I was bold. I was optimistic. I was full of hope and dreams for my family. One of the things that I've had to really embrace with showing up when it's hard is letting go of some of the dreams that I've had for my family, my expectations of dreams. I've had to let go of what I thought my kids would look like, be like, act like. I've had to let it go. And it's been so hard because I had a vision of what my kids would be like before I had kids. Oh, when I'm a mom, this is the way it's going to be. And one of the hardest parts has been, why has anxiety and depression been the story over my children's life? And then there's the shame that comes with that. There's the shame of, well, what's wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? I'm here to say you have done nothing wrong. Mental illness, mental health concerns are happening to the affluent all the way down to people who have nothing. One of the greatest understandings of that I had, when I first started in mental health and resilience, I was working with youth at risk in Vancouver. I was working with drug dealers, gang members, and we would call those families those families, you know, the ones that come from the really rough backgrounds. And what's interesting is when I moved to Calgary and I continued my work, but this time my work went to middle class and affluent homes. And I realized that the same anxiety and the same depression and the same opposition I saw in gang members was also in the home behind the beautiful picket fence with the nice car. Guys, there's no such thing as those families. There's no such thing. It doesn't matter if you are a broken family, if you're a single parent. You are not experiencing these things because you were abused. You're not experiencing these things because you've had a divorce. No, these things are happening everywhere. And it shocks some. It shocked me. I'm like, man, like my husband and I, we've been married for 21 years. We are good people. We have morals. We have faith. We give back. We're average, normal, everyday people. And there it is in our home. And I had a moment, I had a few months of, why me? Why me? Like, why is this happening to me? All the good that I've done, all the faith I have in God, where is God right now? Why me? And why my kid? And that's been a huge part of my surrender. Showing up when it's hard has meant that I've had to surrender what I thought my family would look like. But showing up when it's hard also means getting a dream again for your home, getting a dream again. But maybe what it is it's getting rid of the chaff. It's getting rid of the flaky dream, the silly dream, the dream that was just kind of unrealistic and way out of life, out of reality. We're coming, what life has brought to us is it's brought us back down out of the sky, back down into the dirt, and says, now I want you to build a dream from the dirt. Build a dream from the dirt. Build it from the ground. Build it so that it actually lasts and it's sustained. Because how many of you would say that the real things of life, the grit, the hardships, the bad things, that you are who you are right now, not because of the victories, but because of the brokenness. Brokenness creates so much in us. And here we are trying to protect our kids from it. And what I'm saying is that we need to surround them. We need to get a dream for them again, but a new dream. A dream that is rooted in something that will always last, whether they go through depression or not. Here's the thing, my 14-year-old went to school today for the first day in 2 weeks. He has been in bed for 2 weeks. And I remember, 2 weeks ago, we haven't dealt with any major episode for a long time. It's been 5 years, but he's 14. It's a new day. You think, by Friday, I want to be the kind of parent that I won't see anxiety in my house anymore. I'm sorry, if that's what you are wanting, you're not in the right place, because that's unrealistic. But I promise you that the skills we're building into you this week, they're going to make it so that your kid can face any storm. They might still have the diagnosis of anxiety and depression, but now you have rootedness that's going to get them through anxiety, through depression, in season after season, whether they are 8, whether they are 14, whether it hits them again at 21, because how many of you know anxiety and depression, they're always there. They're normal human emotions. They're alarms. They tell us something isn't right now. And if you've had a major change in your life, if you've had a transition in your life, what have we just been through as a society, as a globe? This is huge. Don't take for granted the fact that your children, our children, have just lived through something that most children have never been through in their lives. And they will be telling their grandchildren. I remember the quarantine. I remember COVID. I remember that there was a whole grade that was lost for me. I remember at the time when suicide was the second leading cause of death among my peers. I remember those days, but I'm still here. And you know why they'll still be here? Because you decided to show up when it's hard, to fight for a new dream for your family that would allow them to not get rid of pain, but know how to go through pain and be resilient and be able to bounce back when things get hard. Because I'll tell you, when they get that job they don't like, when they work with a boss they don't like, what's sustaining them then? What you're building in you right now, that resilience, that grit, what you're building here that just gets passed on to them without words. Because it's not words that change things. It's us. The person who had to change the most in my family when we went through the crisis was me. And as soon as I found that emotional regulation, like Sally was talking about, that emotional regulation, that being able, instead of like freaking out to super depressed, I started to learn how to manage my emotions. And then all of a sudden, my son got better. And this time when it hit again and he's in bed again, I had to go in here because inside all I heard was my mom screaming in my ear. Not really, but that voice of, what kind of parent are you? You can't even get your kid to school. And there were days that sometimes he would come upstairs, he would shower, he'd get up early, he'd have his backpack on, he's just about to go out the door, and he's like, Mom, I can't do it. Like, there's something wrong. I'm not doing okay. And my I'm freaking out because I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. And I'm asking him all the questions that Sally says not to ask. I'm asking him, well, what's going on? Like, what can I do? Like, do we need to book let's book an appointment. Let's do this. And he's looking at me like, you are overwhelming me, Mom. Could you just hold me for a minute? Could you just do that? And literally all I have done, and I have felt like the biggest failure of a mother, to be honest, the last 2 weeks, because I did a couple of things. I booked a doctor's appointment because maybe his growth spurt, his medication's not working. Okay, let's at least do that. I booked an appointment with Shelly, myself, our counselor, Shelly. I'm going to go see her tomorrow because I know that I need help. I need to be surrounded. He needs to be surrounded. So yes, I can do that. Okay, I did that. But every time I would try to offer something that could help him, offer some kind of advice, get in there, try to like put my foot down, it all went downhill. And so there I am, powerless, feeling powerless, wondering, what am I going to do to help this kid? You know what helped my son the last 2 weeks? And the reason why he was able to go out the door today? I listened to him. I would sit on his bed and I'd say, hey, what's going on? And there was more days than not, all he could say was, I don't know, Mom. There was one morning he said, I just need to feel stable. Like, wow, my 14-year-old was able to nail that. I just need to feel stable. Then another thing I did was in my morning routine, I sat on my couch every morning and I sat there and I wrote out what I dream of for my kids, a proper dream. Not I just want them to be happy. Because life, how many of you know? How many of you have been thrown some hardballs in your life? How many of you know that that's so unrealistic? And if we're setting our kids up for happiness, how many of you know that that's going to cause depression and anxiety? No, I thought I got to call him forth. I got to remind him of who he is. And I wrote for him my dream for him. And this is what I wrote. That's not it. That's some other amazing stuff, I guess. Ben, you were born for a purpose. You have a destiny, a future, and a hope because you were known before you were born. You have overcome incredible odds. You are an overcomer. Out of the pit of depression and anxiety, you rise. These do not define you. Your strength does. You are called to do good works. You're not like others. You see what others don't. You're different, and we celebrate that because you call the world to truth. You are a reformer. You are a leader. You are rooted and grounded. You are deeply loved. You are chosen. You have a destiny. And I watched my son come alive a little bit more every day, reading that over him. Son, don't forget who you are. As he walked out the door today, what did I say to him? Son, don't forget who you are. But I have to know who I am in order to do that. I have to know who I am. And I have to know what's going on in my own emotional inner world. Before I can calm the anxiety of my child, I need to calm the anxiety right here. One of my favorite people ever, who's just gone now, named Jean Vanier, started a whole movement bringing people who have disabilities into community. And he wrote a beautiful statement. He said, you can't bathe anyone without peace in your hands. And that basically means that if I'm trying to hold my son's emotion, if I'm trying to hold him, I can't hold him unless this is okay here. And so today, we're calling you to bravery, to show up when it's hard. It's so possible to fight. This is what I wrote this morning. Because I'll tell you, sometimes all you have is what you stand on. And again, like, please, I would beg you to not buy in to the idea that if you listen to that podcast and you practice those management skills on your kids, that you're going to see a difference. I've been working with youth for over 20 years, and I see the damage of that. And my why I do what I do comes deeply from watching these poor youth. They either do two things. They'll act the way you want them to. Absolutely. The ones like me, the people pleasers, oh yeah, I will act exactly how you want. You discipline me in the way that book says, oh yeah, I'm going to give you exactly what you want because your approval means everything to me. But my heart will be breaking on the inside. And then there's kids like my son who will look at you, stand firm against you, rebel, not do what you ask. And we call them the bad kids, and we call kids like me the good kids. There's no bad kids. And the good kids are often the ones you have to worry about the most. Because since when do we want kids that just nod their heads at whatever we say? And then we wonder why they get pregnant, why they turn to drugs. We're so shocked. I'm not shocked. I've been watching this for 20 years, friends. I'm not shocked at all because nobody likes to be managed. Nobody wants you to change their behavior. They want you to see them. If I could ask any youth in my youth resilience career, what do you want from adults? What do you want from your parents? What do you want from your teachers? You know what they're going to tell you? I just want them to see me. I just want them to understand me. I just want them to like me. I want them to see my skills and my strengths and not just my weaknesses. And as parents, I'll tell you, it's harder to do it as a parent than a youth leader. It's harder to do it as a parent than a teacher because you're separated from those other ones, right? But when it's your kid, you're faced with yourself. You're faced with all the expectations, right? I expected different. You're not living the way I thought, or this is hard. I'm trying to get my work done and you are disrupting me. I don't have time for your outbursts right now. We have to get in the car. We needed to leave 20 minutes ago. And so it's different. It's so different. But if we could pause for a moment, like Sally said, take those breaths, understand what's triggering us, really get underneath that. And then just sit for a moment and say, what do you need from me right now? Or acknowledge the emotion that they're feeling. When emotions are high, they're swirling around. They're in chaos around us. We're in chaos. You name that emotion, you bring it out of the atmosphere, you bring it out of chaos, and it's now in your hands. Dr. Dan Siegel calls that you name the emotion to tame it. So you can name the emotion. I can see you're really frustrated right now. And if they're not frustrated, they'll tell you, no, I'm not frustrated. I'm sad. It gets clarification. It starts somewhere. This is what I wrote today. Remember what you dream of for your family and learn to fight, because it's in the fight where we become strong and mature. I'm not talking about fighting with your kids. I'm talking about the fight for their lives, the fight for their health. It's in the fight where you and I, as parents, become strong and mature, and the cracks of our lives get sealed. You won't be crushed by the fight. You are going to be established by it. The fight right now for your kids, the fight over their bringing them out of anxiety. You're not going to be crushed by this journey, friends. You're going to be established by it, by doing the hard work, to show up when it's hard. And I'll tell you, there's going to be days when it's just going to be so hard. And then there's going to be days when all that hard work, the 2 weeks of what I would call laboring for my son, going down to his room, hugging him, asking, how is he doing? Trying to bring him out, like all that hard work. And this morning it was as easy can be, because I showed up hard for 2 weeks. And you don't know how long you have to show up hard for. That's the problem. You might have to show up hard for 2 weeks. You might have to show up hard for 2 years. When my son was brought home from the hospital, I remember he was medicated. I thought, yes, right? Isn't that just the answer, right? He's got the meds. He's got a counselor. Isn't that enough? Well, if that was enough, our kids wouldn't be suffering, because there's plenty of all that going around. And I remember he had his first fit of rage again. And I was so distraught. I thought we were over this. I thought that the hard part was over. We did the hospital. We did a hard thing. We showed up, and that was hard enough. And now this is even harder, because I don't have a counselor sitting right next to me saying, this is what you do right now. I had no manual. All I had was the words that she spoke to me, bring him closer. I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. I didn't grow up in a family that brought me closer when I was acting out. I got sent to my room. I got a spanking. I got all kinds of stuff. I got privileges taken away. I child of the 80s. Anyone else? Any children of the 80s, right? And so I remember I tried to bring him like close. I thought maybe she meant physically close. And so she, grabbed him, tried to hold him. Oh, don't ever try to hold a hurricane, right? Like he's flailing, he's mad. I've had parents say to me, I've tried your bring it closer thing and it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, when did you try to bring them closer? When they were angry. I'm like, yeah, I've learned the hard way. You don't do that. What I did was I removed all the sharp objects and I sat with him in the same room. And I just sat there and I watched him. And he's looking at me like, why are you just watching me? I mean, where's my discipline, Mom? Where's my discipline? What are you going to do to me now? See, I just thrashed your wall. What are you going to do now, Mom? I just sat there and I said, son, we love you. We want what's best for you. Nothing's going to break this connection right now. My connection to you means more than controlling your behavior. And then I almost like choked on those words because I'm like, no, all I want to do is control this kid. But I'll tell you, I showed up like that day and the next day and the next day. And it took a year. I didn't show up for the short term. In order to see the change in my son, I showed up like that in his life. Every time he would be anxious, every time he would be depressed, every time he would be oppositional or aggressive, I showed up the same way. And while I'm sitting there with him in his mess, I am faced with my own mess because all it did was bubble to the surface. There it was for me to see. And I had to work on that. It took I'm still working on that. That is going to take more than a year, friends. That is my lifelong journey, but it's my brave journey and it's your brave journey. And by all means, what we're not saying here is that you're messed up. You're not messed up. You've just forgotten who you are. And your child is not messed up, but we're giving you these critical resilience skills in order to see your children be resilient. Our society, our culture has got it all wrong, friends. It's not about fixing these kids. It's about leaning in. It's about being brave and showing up when it's hard. So today, you got homework again. Yay, and action. Because what we want to do is we want to take yay, that was so good. I was so moved by Sally. I loved everything she said. Oh, Connie, that story just gripped my heart. But this is not going to do baloney for you unless we put some action to it. And that's why we have this action plan. So today, I want you to think about what are your triggers? What are your triggers? What are the things inside of you? Now, that might be really personal to post. So I don't want to ever put anyone in a weird situation. So promise me, get a journal, write it down, do some hard work. What are my triggers? If you would like to share them, we are here for you as your community and as your village. But if that's too much, and you know that there's prizes, and if you post on the wall, you get a prize, like there's an opportunity for a prize. I want you to tell us what do you need right now? What do you need? Sometimes yesterday, I was able to take my trigger, pull it out of chaos by going, I am afraid of anger. I'm afraid of when my boys get angry. So what do I need in that moment? I need to know I can trust them. I need to know that I'm safe. And as soon as I was able to tell them what my trigger was and what I need, we got somewhere. So if the trigger's too much to post, bring it down. What do you need, friends? What do you need today to be able to show up when it's hard? What do you need? I want to speak this over you before we go. I want to tell you that you're brave. You can show up when it's hard. You can love without walls. You can forgive when it hurts. You're going to rise through the storm. Thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning.